Chicken breast and broccoli, go!
What's up guys? So in this video I'm going to reveal the 40 questions that I ask every single client. If they're a long-term client, if I'm just running them a one-off training plan, these are the 40 questions that I ask them. So, you might be asking yourself, Jeff, I'm not a client, why would I care? Well, if you want to be your own client and your own coach, you should be asking yourself these questions. Or, if you have someone else as a coach, they should be asking you these questions. Because if they're not doing their job. And if you are a coach, feel free to use these questions or this questionnaire with your clients. It's not a secret, it's not like some secret formula, it is just basic common sense questions that you need to be asking yourself or your clients. The first one is name. Yeah, pretty important. I have to know who the client is. It might say it in an email, but I need to say it on the form as well. Number 2 is going to be age. Now, I've trained people from 14 to 70 and everywhere in between, and on the whole, there are more similarities than differences. Still, older trainees typically need more recovery time, a little bit lower frequency, a little bit less intensity as well as perfect technique, or they're more likely to get injured. It's just the reality of the situation. They can still gain muscle. I don't treat them like they're just completely fragile children or anything. No, they can still train hard, they can still gain muscle, they can still lose fat, they can still look great, but age is something I need to take into account. If they're a little bit younger, if I'm training like a 16-year-old or something, they're still growing, and so I might take a slightly different approach than if someone is 20 or 25 or 30. So age isn't a massively important factor, but it is something that I need to take into account. Number 3 is their current city. I just like to know where they are. It might have an effect on the type of equipment or the gyms or just the culture in general. Just good to know where in the world they are. The next one is going to be height. So this doesn't actually affect things too much, but it is important for me to compare to their weight. If someone is 100 kilos and they are 7 feet tall, that is way different than if they are 5 feet tall. So height in comparison to weight is going to be a very, very important factor. Height alone doesn't change things all that much. You know, maybe range of motion is going to be higher, especially on things like squats, so I might program slightly lower reps, but on the whole, height doesn't matter that much. Number 5 and number 6, this is the Chinese symbol for 6, it looks like the character for 6. It's going to be current weight and their goal weight. So these are very important to know if they're bulking, if they're cutting, and not everyone has a goal weight. Some people want to recomp, they want to stay about the same weight. Other people want to just get stronger or be healthier, so not everyone has a goal weight. But if they do, that is extremely important information for me to know, because if they're bulking or cutting or doing something else, that is going to drastically impact both their diet as well as the training plan. Number 7 is going to be their body weight history. So this is important for a few reasons. First, if they used to be extremely fat and they've been dieting for a while, they're going to have some diet fatigue. So if they want to go even lower, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. That process might be a little bit slower than if this is their top weight of all time. Also, if they had been fat before and they want to bulk, it's more likely that they'll get fat again. So they have to bulk very, very slowly and be very careful about things. On the other hand, if they've, never been fat, if they've never been overweight, if they're like 60 kilos and they've never been more than 61 kilos, they have a little bit more runway when it comes to bulking and when it comes to bumping up the calories, etc. So knowing where they've been is very, very important hormonally and in terms of what they can do in the future. It's not, the end of the world if they've been fat before. It just means they need to be a little bit more responsible when it comes to their calories and their habits. Number 8 is going to be a body fat percentage estimation. I send them a couple pics just to get a good idea of where they are in this chart. If they are 8%, if they're 15%, or 20%, or 25%. I send them these pictures because sometimes people will claim to be way leaner than they actually are. They'll be like, my scale tells me I'm 12%, and they'll be 20% or something like that. So any way of measuring your body fat percentage is potentially way off. Some, even like DEXA, can be quite a bit off. I'll do a whole video on that in the future. But body fat percentage based on pictures that I send is going to be way more accurate compared to them just guessing, or them looking in the mirror, or them, getting some scan at the gym, which can be way, way off. Number 9 is going to be asking them for current pics if possible. If they don't want to send pictures for whatever reason, that's fine. I don't need them necessarily, but they do help a lot. in, assessing where they are in terms of muscularity, in terms of body fat percentage, in terms of muscle imbalances, in terms of weak points, etc. All of this is very, very important. A picture really does tell 1,000 words, and I can get a very good idea of where they are and where they can go based on just a picture. So a picture is one of the most important pieces of information that I get. Number 10 is just asking them their goals. If you have a personal trainer and they don't ask you about your goals, they're not a personal trainer. They're just like someone you're talking to, I mean, if I don't know someone's goals, how do I help them get to their goals, which is my entire job? Doesn't make any sense. So I ask them just point blank, straight up, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And how can I help you to get there? Number 11, I ask them their current diet. So what foods, what times, what portion sizes, just any information that they can give me about their current diet. When I write a diet plan, it's not like meal 1, 200 grams of chicken breast with 88 grams of rice and 28 grams of broccoli. No one follows that. No one does that. Anyone who sends you a plan like that, they're probably full of crap. So what I usually do is I assess their current diet, and then I offer some changes that can actually help them get on the right track without completely overhauling their current diet, because often for most people, that's not really sustainable. If they are eating a bunch of junk food and I just tell them like, chicken breast and broccoli, go! That's like a week, maybe 2 weeks. So I tend to just give corrections and changes based on what is currently happening. Number 12, have you tried any diets before? How did you respond? So this is mostly to assess if they're good with carbs, not good with carbs, just how do they handle meal timing, etc. If they've done really well on a particular diet, I might take that into account and do something similar. Whereas if they did keto before and they felt like they were going to die for a month, well, I'm not going to be like, have you tried keto? No. I need to learn from their mistakes as much as they do. So as a coach, that is incredibly important information. All right, number 13 is going to be, do you have any dietary restrictions? This is important for obvious reasons. If they are a vegetarian or a vegan, or they have religious reasons that they don't eat a certain food, I'm not going to be like, so you're Muslim, have you heard about pork? 14 is going to be, do you take any supplements or vitamins or anything like that? Most people don't, and they're like, should I be taking those? To which my response is usually, not really. Some people have a big old list. They have like 40 or 50 things they're taking. I think one client, he had 3 pages of supplements. And I was like, how much money does this all cost? And how messed up are you to be taking all of this stuff? And, in reality, he probably didn't need 90% of that. So, but it's good for me just to realize, what they're putting in their body, because it could have some effect, positive or negative. Number 15, can you cook basic meals at home? Most people can. I would say 80 or 90% of people say yes. Some people live with their parents, especially if they are younger, in which case their diet is a little bit restricted based on what mom is cooking, that kind of thing. But on the whole, if they're really busy, I have some people who are like CEOs or like they run their own company or whatever, and they just don't have the time to cook, and that, that will of course change the diet plan. Number 16, known food allergies or intolerances. Obvious reasons. They're not going to be like, I can't eat carrots. Carrot plan. No. The next one is going to be current alcohol intake. Some people, they drink too much and they say like, oh, can I still make gains? And yes, generally speaking, you can still make progress even while consuming pretty significant amounts of alcohol. Other people are willing to cut it out, which can absolutely help. And it's just a very important metric for me to know, not just in terms of calories. It's not just empty calories, but it also has hormonal implications. It can also affect their workout plan. So if they go out on Friday and Saturday nights, I'm not going to put their biggest training session on Sunday morning, because they're not going to be really ready to perform. Number 18 is going to be water intake. I would say 90% of the time, I tell people to increase their water intake. I've seen people who just don't drink water. They drink everything else, soda, liquor, just milk, everything but water. They don't take in any water, or they're like, does coffee count as water? Not really. So if you're 90% of people watching this video, you should drink more water. I usually recommend at least 2 liters for most people. 3 liters is also pretty common. Some people up to 4 liters per day. I will personally have probably 3 to 4, sometimes 5. 19, current maintenance calories per day if known. A lot of people won't know this, or they'll say something which I'm like pretty sure is a guess. They'll be like 2,500 or 2,000, or it'll be a really specific number like 2,123. And this is good to know. It's not always accurate, but it's just good to get a ballpark estimate. Maybe they've had some kind of like body test or something. On the whole, I don't use this that much. I usually don't recommend counting calories, but it's still good, important information to take into account. Number 20, do you smoke? This actually doesn't impact too much. It might impact their cardio, if anything, but it's just good to get a general picture of their health. Number 21 is going to be estimated hours of sleep per night. This one is very important. Often I see people with body composition issues who are having like 5 hours of sleep per night. That is not going to be sufficient. Even 6 hours for most people, it's not enough. So unless this is like 7 to 7.5 hours, I usually recommend more sleep. Number 22 is a rough daily schedule. So just how is their day structured? Some people are really not busy at all and they have just a wide open schedule. They can work out whenever they want. Other people are super busy. They wake up at 4 a.m. I have multiple clients who wake up at 4 a.m. My hat is off to you. I could never do that. But it does, matter when it comes to their sleep cycle, when it comes to when they can work out, and also probably their level of stress as well. 23 is, do you have a family history of heart disease or diabetes or any other sort of metabolic types of diseases? This is important. Often I will see people who are more overweight. They have a family history of diabetes in particular. If it's on both sides, they have to be really, really careful with their exercise, with their diet, especially carb intake, sugar. Often a sugar addiction and a family history of diabetes will go absolutely hand in hand. That's one thing I've noticed. If someone is taking in sugar on a regular basis, and I look down at this question, it's almost always a yes. Diabetes is on one or both sides of the family. So if you have a family history of diabetes, realize that you are also at risk. Number 24, do you have asthma, emphysema, or bronchitis? It took me like 7 times to say those words. I'm not a good talker. This is just important if they can do high-intensity cardio, low-intensity cardio, that kind of thing. Number 25, are you taking any medication that could affect the training? So some people are on medication that makes them gain weight or suppresses their appetite, and any medication that they are taking that is relevant, I need to know about. Number 26, has a doctor advised you against exercise? Honestly, I think most of the time it's the opposite. People are like, my doctor says I should exercise, but if they have any kind of medical condition and their doctor advised them not to exercise, I need to know those details about why. Number 27, do you have any recent blood work results? This is pretty simple. I just need to know if anything is out of range, especially if they are diabetic, if their hemoglobin A1C, etc., or if their blood sugar is up, that kind of thing. And really just anything that is out of range is good for me to know. It might not directly affect the plan all the time, but again, it's very good background information for me to know. Number 28 is approximate level of stress from a 0 to a 10 self-reported. So this is really important. Stress is absolutely critical. I'll do a whole video on it. But if they're above about a 5, I'll usually tell them to reduce it or advise them on how to reduce it. Number 29 is training history for as long as they remember. And this, sometimes it's like one paragraph or one sentence even, like, I did karate when I was a kid or something. Some people send like 5 or 10 pages. One guy sent like 8 pages of training history, and I read it. I read every single word, and it was long, but it gave me such an idea of where they had been and where they want to go with their physique. So I say just as many details as you give, and I'll read them, and it'll help me design the best plan for you. So if you send one sentence, it doesn't really help me, but if you send a whole bunch, it definitely does. Number 30, do you have a gym membership? And number 31, if not, what equipment is available? So right now with coronavirus, a lot of people are still at home and they're doing some kind of home workout, which I will need to take that into account. Again, it's a custom plan, so it is just based on what is available. If they only have like pink dumbbells, well, I'm gonna have to be really creative as a coach, but they can still get really good results in most cases. Number 32, have you been following any other plan recently? and how were the results. So if they've been doing super high volume and they did, really, really well, I'm not going to be like, 1 set per day, that's what you're going to be on. No, their past results, unlike stocks, they are going to be predictive of future results. So, what they did in the past can be used to predict the future by me as the coach. Number 33, personal bests on known lifts, so squat, bench, deadlift, running, whatever is relevant to them. If they want to Olympic weightlift, what are their bests on the clean and jerk and snatch, etc. Just to get a general idea of where they are. It's not always like a beginner is weak and an advanced person is strong, but there's a pretty clear correlation. Number 34, any particularly liked movements or disliked movements. It always amazes me how many coaches don't ask this question, because your enjoyment of the plan is actually really important. So if you don't like bench press, I'm not going to write in bench press. If you don't like squats, it's common sense as a coach to only program the movements that you like. Now, if someone is like, I don't like any movements except for curls, well, you're going to have to do other stuff as well. But to a certain extent, I can take those into account when writing the plan. Number 35, do you have any injuries that can affect your training or what you can do? So this is really important. If they have a knee injury, I'm not like, squats, 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 squats. No, the training plan needs to be adjusted very, very meticulously towards their strengths and towards their weaknesses, and injuries are the ultimate weakness. If they have just chronic ankle issues, I'm not like, CrossFit. No, it needs to be tailored towards not just what they can do, but their injury history. Number 36 is pretty simple. How many days per week can you commit to exercising? So some days some people this is 7 per week, some people it's like 3 per week. It really just varies, but it's important for me to know when I'm writing out their actual plan. Number 37, what time of day can you exercise? So some people, they can only work out in the morning or only in the evening, and this doesn't affect too much. But I might not prescribe heavy spinal loading exercises in the morning. So if they have like the weekend free, I would put the heavy squat workout on that day, just because if they can only work out in the morning, Monday to Friday, you don't want to wake up and have to warm up a ton and then put a ton of weight on your back when you're not even really completely warmed up. Bench press isn't too bad in the morning, but a squat or a deadlift, maybe not ideal. Number 38, what specific body part or area do you want to improve? 1 to 3 areas. So often it's arms for the men, or chest, or sometimes back, occasionally legs, not that often, but sometimes. For women, often, yes, I do train women. For women, it's often glutes, sometimes legs. Often people say core or the abs, but that's mostly diet. It's not like you can really change that much about the abs without focusing on the diet. But it's important for me to know what emphasis they want for their physique, because it's their body, it's their physique, and they should be able to shape it the way they want to. And part of my job as a coach is writing a training plan that actually takes that into account. Number 39 is, how did you hear about my services? Most people say from Quora, some say from Instagram or YouTube, occasionally from Medium, one person from Medium. Honestly, this is not about you. This one is for me, just feedback about where the traffic is coming from. I'm running a business, I'm an entrepreneur, so it's important for me to know which sources of traffic are actually converting into clients. Number 40 is anything you want to share with me to help me write the best possible program for you. Now, this is pretty simple. A lot of coaches don't even ask. They don't even say like, anything else you want to tell me to help me do my job? I would say even most professions, like a lawyer or a plumber or a doctor, how often is your doctor like, do you have any other questions for me? I mean, some do, but a lot of them don't. And I think it's important, if you are in a service position, to just ask the person, how can I do my job better? What are your actual goals, and how can I do my job to service you better? All right, and that's basically it. Hopefully these questions can give you something to think about. If you're designing your own program, you should be asking yourself most of these questions. You don't have to ask yourself your own name or your address or where you live, but I would say at least 80% of these questions, you really need to give some serious thought if you're writing out your own training plan, because it's important to be objective. It's easy for me to be objective about other people, but if you're writing your own training plan, it's important to be objective with yourself. All right, and that is all for today. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, notifications, etc., and I will see you in the next video. Peace!